walk into a commercial building and it might be a hotel and they're still partying at the bar till 2, 3 in the morning. So we're having to work around people running around the hotels all the time. So a lot of the times we either wait or we end up working upstairs, way upstairs where there's hardly any sound, because otherwise we can't get anything done. And when they do their evidence review, let me tell you, you come out of there, we have anywhere from 6 to 12 investigators per investigation that go out. We run a 9-camera system, so I can wire up 9 rooms. Everybody's got a digital recorder with them, so when we're doing our electronic voice phenomena sessions, everybody's got recorders. You got 12 recorders. So when we get done and we have to do that evidence review, we're lucky to get it done within 2 weeks, because it takes forever. It's not like on TV when they walk in and here Brian, take this and listen to this and this, and then they're out the door doing their post. It takes forever. And you're a scientist. Believe it or not, you're considered a scientist as a ghost hunter. So you have to keep meticulous records, just like a scientist does. My team, when they go out, I have them write reports. They have to carry paper with them to write reports. They generally write them like police officers, where they write minute by minute what's going on. Electronic voice phenomena.
EDH.
Go ahead and flip.
Electronic voice phenomena is voices that we pick up on our digital voice recorders, but you don't actually hear them with your ear at the time. We'll go home and we'll listen to our recordings, and the voice will be on our digital voice recorder.
So without further ado, again, we're the California Paranormal Investigation Team of Sacramento. We're 45 strong. We have teams up and down the state of California. We cover parts of Oregon. Thank you. We cover parts of Oregon and Washington and Nevada. So we're all over the place. Okay.
It's a ghost.
It's a ghost. So I welcome you to our presentation of Ghosts of the Gold Country. This was taken outside of Jackson, and I just thought it kind of looked cool for what we were doing for the presentation. There's no ghosting value at all. It's just there. All right, Placerville. Placerville is full of ghosts. You can go up, every building in Main Street is probably haunted. You can walk in to look at antiques, and there's probably a ghost looking over your shoulder. One of the most active places, the Sequoia, the Bennett House. This thing was built in 1853 by Colonel Frederick B. 1859, Judge Marcus Bennett purchased it, hence the B. Bennett name. He expanded to 16 rooms. In 1958, it was purchased by the Elks, and it was sold once again to its present owners. It is a restaurant. You can go in and have dinner in this place. And some of the things that have occurred in here are pretty incredible. Bennett's son Marcus reportedly fell down the stairs and was killed when he was 3. You've got a nanny felt so guilty after the death that she reportedly hung herself upstairs. Okay. Well, water faucets tend to turn on and off by themselves. Lights flicker. They see an apparition about the size of a young boy going up the stairway. There's the apparition of a woman that they see, and she goes through the halls of the building, just kind of looking around. Upstairs in the attic, for some reason we don't know yet, there's a family that hangs out up in the attic of this building. So what we did is we went in, we took 5 we went in and set up our camera system. We went twice to this place. The first time they gave us 3 hours to do it, and it was during the day. And so I took a team in. We only set up regular video cameras. And while one of our investigators was on this stage right here, setting up her camera, she heard 3 sets of footsteps come towards her. And we actually caught the audio on the video of these things coming towards her. When I was setting up my digital camera, my camera takes separate batteries. And I could not get a clear photo at all in this hallway by this supposedly haunted restroom. And I went through 5 camera batteries. Now I would step away from this area and go into the bar area, and the batteries were fine. I'd get over here and my batteries were drained. So who knows? And to put an ad on this, the bathroom is supposedly haunted by a woman. It is supposedly haunted by a woman who does not like pretty women primping in the mirror. So her image will appear in the mirror. So if you go in there and you're looking good one night and you're out with your husband, watch out, because she'll appear in the mirror every time and scare him. That's her thing. Why? But that's her thing. No, wrong button. I'm not used to this either. There we go. Okay. So when I did a prelim, I did our first prelim over there, I was sitting at that bar. And as I was asking the owner questions about what was going on in this place, the lights were flickering on and off. And I mean literally on and off, not just flickering, but on and off. And I asked him, I said, you know, is it your wiring or what's going on? And he said, no, we just had the wiring redone a month ago. So something probably was reacting to my questions. You don't know when you do these things. In this picture here, and this is part of what we do, we've got Laura down here, and this is up in the bridal suite area. And the day we were doing it, the first time we went back, the day we were doing it, they were going to have a wedding that day. And again, like I said, you don't always get perfect conditions. In this day, they were vacuuming and everything else. So we tried to do an EDP session up here. Of course, we didn't get anything out of it, but you know, you do your best with what's thrown at you. So then we got frustrated, and Karen, one of our psychics, who we do use psychics in this group, had come up the stairs and told us that she felt it was more going on downstairs. So we took off and went downstairs. Well, what happened was, okay, on one of our trips that we did this, that we came to the Sequoia, they had been teaching ballroom dancing down in the main ballroom. And a gentleman had come up from that class and wanted to hang out with us during the investigation at that time. And he complained that for some reason during the time they were in the ballroom that the lights had been turned off. So I went ahead and asked who turned the lights off in the ballroom. And I can play that again.
You turned the lights on and off in the ballroom, do you know? Well, if I find out, I let you know.
Anybody get that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very clear.
Yeah, you said Jeff. So whoever said it? Yeah, you want to play again? So he says Jeff. I'll play one more time now that you know what it is.
Yes. It sounds like yes to me, machine.
You turned the lights on and off in the ballroom, do you know? Well, if I find out, I let you know.
Yeah.
Did you hear it at the time?
We did not hear it at the time. So I was real surprised when I got home and heard it. It's pretty cool. Yeah, we headed out to the women's restroom. This is where it gets fun. This is where... Hear that one? This is our psychic down in the women's restroom. There's a big story behind this. She's channeling a woman in the restroom. So we're thinking she's channeling the woman in the mirror. So I'm angling all my questions towards this woman. And what I didn't realize, and what she didn't realize, was that there was a male spirit in the restroom with us. And when I got home to listen to the EVP, this is the male voice I got. Let's see if you can listen, hear what he says a couple of times. What do you think he says? He's kind of moaning, and he says, "Oh, I can't breathe." Now, where did that come from? And that you could hear. You couldn't hear it audibly when you played the tape back. You could absolutely hear it on the tape without even putting the headphones on. We went back a couple weeks later to have a drink. Not a drink, but a water drink. I'll tell you exactly. We were checking out the cemetery across the way. Don't get me wrong. We're not, you know. And we talked. Yeah, we talked to the manager of the place. And he told me that that bathroom at one time had been the back porch of the house. And there was a tree outside that back porch. And they hung a couple people out there. So I guess this is what, maybe this is what this is. The guy says, "Oh, I can't breathe."
That was Jeff. He turned the lights up.
That was probably Jeff. He got mad at the lights off. Yeah. That was probably Jeff. I like you. You're all right. So we continue at Sequoia. And as we talked to the dowsing rods, I asked this woman if she had worked at the restaurant. And the dowsing rods cross. Yes, what they do is the dowsing rods, you program them, and supposedly these spirits' energy can make the dowsing rods cross and answer the questions. So what we did was I had it cross for yes and spread out for no. So as we stood in the bathroom, I asked her several questions, and I asked her if she had been an employee there, and she said yes. And I asked her if she was buried at the cemetery across the way, and she said yes. Then I asked her if after we put our equipment away, if she would, and we went over there, if she would lead us to her grave via the dowsing rods. And she said yes. So this is what's going on in this video, is she led us through the cemetery with the dowsing rods. Now the interesting part of this is that the name that we came up with at the cemetery on the grave had been a former employee of Sequoia. back in the 1900s. So it's kind of interesting to get that kind of stuff, you know, when you're doing this. So we have some verification on that, which is kind of cool, you know? But she did, it took about 10 minutes to lead me to the grave. And I followed the dowsing rods through the cemetery. You know, they led left, right, whatever, and they led me to the cemetery. Hangman's Tree, Placerville. Favorite place to go as sunny as possible. This is no longer there, they condemned it. The building was so old. It had the lower floor where the bar is, it had the upper floor that nobody had lived in for like 60, 70 years. We did both. We did that upper part and the lower part. The upper part, you had to be really careful because you'd be falling through the roof. In the lower part, if you didn't watch what you were doing. While we were there, we went twice. While we were there, we did the upper part the first time. Karen, our psychic, went up, and she told me that there was a couple that was arguing. The woman was in the bathtub, the man was smoking a cigar. Of course, I didn't know about the cigar till later, but there was a man also, they were arguing, and he was pacing back and forth. As I stood up there, and a couple other investigators stood up there, we smelled cigar smoke. And the cigar smoke was moving like this, back and forth. And that's when I looked at Karen and said, I smell the smoke going back and forth. She said, yeah, he's smoking a cigar and he's pacing. He's pacing back and forth. So we conducted one of our EVP sessions up there. I called downstairs. One of the things we do is we do have walkie-talkies when we go out. And one of the things we like to do, because we did smell the cigar smoke, it could be coming from outside somewhere. So I called down to my investigators to see if anybody was outside smoking, and to check outside to see if anybody was outside smoking, and nobody was. Now, you could also argue that wooden walls can retain smells. So maybe the cigar smoke could have been from one of the walls that, that over the years the cigar smoke had penetrated. Who knows? But we did smell the cigar smoke that was going back and forth. At one point in the same area, one of my investigators got shoved forward by something during the session. So it's an interesting place to be. Reports in this bar. Hangman likes to hang out here. Obviously, that's why it's called a hanging tree. The hanging tree itself from Placerville, the original hanging tree stump, is underneath this building. This was, I believe, the hay yard where they hung like 3 guys. It was just the notorious 3 guys they hung and became the Hangman's Tree. But the actual stump is below this building. So it's kind of interesting to be in there. So they've seen a man and woman in 1800s clothes that have been seen sitting at an empty bar. A man dressed in a black suit top hat, probably our hangman, has been seen in the bar area. They hear disembodied footsteps. Shot glasses move by themselves. Patrons and employees feel as if they're being watched. There's a lot of cool spots in the building. People being locked in the women's restroom are a common experience. Now, the cool spots, to address that. Remember, we're not going in as believers. We're going in to help people and find logical explanations for everything. The building's drafty. So you really can't put any credence to the cool spots that occur in this building.
You said it was torn down.
It isn't torn down yet, it's condemned. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do with it. But you can still walk up there and see it. It's still out there. This here is an area, at least an upstairs portion of the building, the one I was talking about earlier. A guest psychic for the evening. Again, it said that there once had been a bathroom, and the psychic spoke the spirits of a man and woman who were arguing. Again, we smelled the smell of cigar smoke. And like I said, one of the investigators was pushed forward while we stood in the circle during one of our EVP sessions. So we did get an EVP from up there. And it's hard to hear. I asked, what is your name? And the gentleman says, Janine. It's a man's voice that says Janine. Maybe that's the man saying, your name is Janine. I don't know. That's it. It's Janine, shut up. Don't bother us. And they shove this. But it's interesting because there's an area just before you go down. It's kind of like this, and there's like you stand there, but the doorway's down here. And there's an area over here that's kind of like a stoop. I had 4 investigators tell me, when they stood on the stoop, that they felt neck pain right here and felt a swaying motion. That's what I thought too. So I thought it'd be fun to go downstairs and see where the stump was, and I kind of figured out from where the stump was to where this thing is, it could have very easily been hanging off that tree. So who knows? But that's what they experienced. I didn't experience it, but they did. I had like 4 or 5 investigators who did. Something's laughing at us. Hear it? This was taken upstairs as well. Something was laughing at us when we were up there. I'll play it again. It's kind of hard to hear on this one. These aren't the best. These are like when we were first investigating. And so it's not the best quality of stuff. Hear it laughing? So something's laughing at us. I felt a cold spot right at the end of the bar. But then there's a door, again, there's a door back there, so you really can't claim anything on it. There's a door back there. You know, that's the kind of things you have to look at. But not a lot happened down in the bar area. Most of the action for us was upstairs. I did get an EVP in the bathroom, but it wasn't really clear, so who knows. It's kind of scary. You go to women's restroom, and then you find out there's someone in there with you.
It seems like that.
They do like bathrooms, and I discovered something in researching is that when they rebuild the building, generally they don't change the plumbing out. So you might have a modern building and you've got 1800s plumbing. And that's why I think there's a lot of ghost activity in these buildings, because water will draw the ghosts. What's the scoop? What's the scoop ice cream that was now a sandwich shop? You can go in there. It's one of the biggest sandwich shops on Main Street. This is an interesting building because it was constructed in the 1800s and saw service as a bakery. Could have been a bar at one point in the early 1900s. And originally the land this thing sits on was arranged for cattle that were set up for slaughter. This place consists of one big room like this, and then there's like an area kind of like back there where there's a couple of alcoves in the back. And they've had a lot of activity back in there. Reports, pictures falling from the walls, objects being moved around, feelings of uneasiness in the back storeroom, lights turning on and off by themselves. The apparition of a young boy that has been seen in what was the bar area. A paper towel dispenser that turns on by itself and all the paper towels go flying out. That's the kind of thing you want to catch and you never do. You know, that'd be cool just to watch it all. A scale in the back room, which is triggered by weight. I don't know if you guys have seen these. They sell them at the stores too for like regular scales. In order to trigger these things, you have to put a weight on them. But this thing, according to the client, would come on and off by itself, randomly, as if there was a weight on there. Cigar smoke permeates an area near a table. Female employees report feeling uneasy in the women's restroom. It's always the bathroom, guys. I try not to go to the bathroom on investigation. Because I have this vision of sitting there doing my business and some guy's face is right here. So I will go before I go. I'll stop at the gas station. I don't care. So the team set up cameras throughout the shop. In the storage area where they have the problem with the scale, I could not get our digital DVR cameras to work. I had to have somebody set up a regular video camera in that area. Nothing would work for some reason. It would malfunction. They worked everywhere else but there. The room at the right, which is the same room that I'm having trouble with the camera, posed an interesting scenario because every time I went back there to take regular standard still photos, the camera would shut down. You know, the women's bathroom area, Fred had an EMF spike that was like really, really high. Okay, EMF, electromagnetic frequencies. That's how we measure the ghosts. Ghosts emit a certain energy, and these meters will pick the energy up. Anything from 0 to 5 can be called electrical. If it jumps up above that, you might have something going on, especially if it jumps and it disappears. We've had cases where we've been out and these things are spiking, and they'll disappear and we can chase them through the room. Watching the spikes. You've done that, right? The millimeter. So Karen, our psychic, goes through the building, takes her notes. Another team went to the area, the side storage room where they conducted the EVP session. And these people decided, because we were doing this, that they were going to make a circus out of it. So they called all their friends. So we had like 40 people in the building. So it was almost useless for any kind of EVP work because, you know, you got to have quiet for it. But what we did was I thought, okay, they want to do this, we'll turn into ghost hunters. So I had the teams come out every time they went out to do their readings and give a report, like it was a TV show. This is our investigator, Julie. This is an area off to the right of the building. Now bear in mind, there's a bakery on the other, beyond this wall, on this side. But the bakery no longer bakes any goods. They have it all shipped in. It's a fake bakery. But what happened while Julie was sitting there was she was smelling cakes and cookies being baked. Okay? This goes back to doing research. After we did the investigation, I go to the archives in El Dorado County, and I find out that it was a bakery back in the 1800s. So maybe it was some residual smell from this bakery she was smelling. It's kind of interesting. They also reported that they could smell cigar smoke in this area. So we had 2 reports of cigar smoke. We had a report down in the dining area and a report up in this little alcove as well. The only problem, and like it says down here, John, who is our lead skeptic, noticed that there are holes in the walls of this place, and it's brick walls. Notice that there's some holes up in the tops of the brick walls. And very easily, if somebody was smoking on the other side, you could get, the smell of the smoke coming through. So we couldn't verify any of the cigar smoke reports while we were out in the field. While I was speaking to the client, and I told you we were doing a circus kind of thing, where I was explaining and putting on a show, there were 7 spoons that literally fell off the counter and fell into the sink. We also had the door chime go off. We had the door locked. So whatever was there was excited to see us, I guess. Here's the scale. You can see it's plugged into the wall. There's nothing else around it. Okay, this is the scale they claim comes on and off by itself at random. So what did we do? We went into an EVP session. Now, as you can see, this is a solid metal table. It's about this thick, heavy. So there's no way anybody could bump into this table and trigger the scale either. So I'm going to show you what happened during our EVP session. Here's the scale right here. Tricia's introducing the place where we're at, what time it is, who we are. And she will say, can you give us a sign that you're here? Watch what happens. There it is. Is there anyone here with us? And there's that old scale turning on. And remember, this thing has to have literal weight put on it to turn on. So we were able to actually document that. So that's the place you can visit. It's right on Main Street. Grass Valley, the Holbrook Hotel. Fabulous place. It's probably one of the most haunted places we've ever been to in a long time. All kinds of stuff happened. This hotel was built in 1882, called the Exchange Hotel, built by Charles Smith. 1879, the hotel was purchased by Ellen and Daniel Holbrook, as we're going to see. Ellen continued to rule the facility until 1908. Arliss Douglas sought to help in efforts to rebuild this thing, and then it was purchased in 1983 and rebuilt. And the current owners love ghost hunters, but there's a reason why. Children run up and down the hallways. Again, smell of cigar smoke in some of the rooms. You got visions of a maid in Victorian clothing, a woman in a dark dress who was seen walking in the stairways, unexplainable music, the presence of a man in the basement bar area who doesn't like women. He's a very dark figure. He will push women down there. You were cut to that point. You stop laughing. A cowboy who leans against the wall that used to be a bar. A lot of stuff occurs in this place. So we go up there. And it's one of the most incredibly laid out hotels I've ever seen because we could not get our cameras to run because it was so spread out and they had guests. So we ended up going up with regular video cameras. This is room number, what room is this? Because of the layout, we couldn't run our cameras. This is room 14.
It's not in.
And we will do a trick with a maglite flashlight. You take the flashlight, you unscrew the tip so it barely touches you, and you lay it down on the surface.
Some of us can hear you.
And so it's a legend through ghost hunting, you know, most of the groups do this, that the ghost will answer you by turning the light on for yes and the light on for no. Off for no. So this is what happened in room 14.
Oh, it's not in.
Some of us can sense you, some of us can feel you.
It is the voice of our
Some of
psychic.
us can hear you. Delicious.
Okay. This session was 2 hours long. And this is room 14. So you guys want to stay somewhere? Room 14 is on. We'll work with that. We have what we call a PX box that we use out in the field. And supposedly, again, it works off EMF stuff. Works off EMF waves. And with the PX box, we can hear the spirits talk. Supposedly, allegedly, hear the spirits talk to us through this box. So in this particular day, we went to room 9 because the spirit of a man with cigar smoke and sometimes we smell. So we went in there, and we were sitting there getting nowhere. And we turned around, and I was trying to use the PX box, and the batteries were worn down. And so I took the batteries out, changed it. The problem I had was that nobody had rented the room for the night. So what do you do with the leftover batteries that you have? So I kept looking. I looked at Rose, and I looked at Kat, and I said, what are we going to do? I don't want to throw these things away. So we went down. We decided to leave, went down the hallway. And all of a sudden, you can hear me on here. The PX box starts to talk. Listen to what it tells me to do once we get out the hallway.
Just talk.
So it told me to throw away the batteries. And play it again. Pretty cool. Can you bring it up? I'll bring it up a little bit. Use my butt in your face. That's how it's going to go. So here we go. Try again.
Just talk.
Nice. This is the basement called the Iron Door. This is where the man with the dark presence appears and harasses women. There's report after report after report. So of course we go down there. Now I gotta let you guys know something before we go any farther with this. I have a very unique way of investigating. I don't investigate like everybody else. I have ADD, okay? I can't sit still for hours on end in a dark room. So I have a way of I don't like to provoke, but sometimes I like to get their attention. So this shot is in that room. There's 4 shots of this in sequence. Nancy Mass, who's a psychic out of Arizona, does remote readings for us before we go into a building. She will tell me what's there. Then our psychics from the field that go out have no idea what she got. Okay? So if our psychics go out and get the same thing Nancy does, that's how we verify our psychics. And I can tell you honestly, both of our psychics, Trish and Karen, are 98% accurate with what Nancy gets from Arizona. Verifiable. So Nancy told us we have a show every Wednesday on Blog Talk Radio that we do on California Hunts Radio. And I decided to go out live. So I was broadcasting live from this hotel. And while we're broadcasting live, we're down in this basement. And Nancy had told us on the air that we were going to get a dark mist in the building. So these are 2 or 3 shots that were taken in sequence. As you can see in the first shot, there's a dark mist. And in the second shot, it was taken right behind it, the mist is gone.
And as I was sitting there, I felt cold, really cold all of a sudden. And I said, oh, I'm feeling really, really cold. So that's when they started taking the pictures. And that's when they got the dark shadow of them.
Well, now, back to my weird way of investigating. I figured this guy, there's a pole in the middle of the room. And somebody got this on video and they're in trouble. And I decided I was going to do like a pole dance for this guy to get his attention. And so I get on this pole, and I'm thinking like the 1800s when women had to be big to work in the fields. So I'm like, I'm standing there going, look, I got good teeth, I can work in the fields, I'm strong, I got big shoulders. So I go through this whole pole dance thing. And I get done. And I looked down at my wrist, and I got bruises on my wrist where it looks like somebody grabbed my wrist. I guess he didn't appreciate my little dance. But again, Rose can attest to you, I have bizarre ways of getting their attention. I'm not like any investigator you're going to see on TV or anything like that. I'm just
Unorthodox.
unorthodox, but it works. I get all the good stuff, but it works. So that is our
Can I talk
experience.
about the bar?
Oh, be my
story?
guest. Oh, yes, I forgot. Go ahead.
Yeah, in that same room, there's a storeroom on one side of the room that you walk into. And I was in there investigating. It was very dark. I walked all the way through to the end. And I'm standing there, and out of the wall comes this woman, walks by me and out the other wall. She was tall, thin, blonde hair, just walked right by me, and all I could see it was from the waist up.
Interesting place. Fascinating place. We also had an instance when we were packing up to leave. It always happens when you're packing up to leave. And Karen, our psychic, said, the children just ran down the hall. They ran down the hall. I don't have the EVP with me right now, but what happened was I was running down the hall with her. And I laid the recorder down on the floor, and the EVP, you can hear me lay the recorder down on the floor, and you hear Karen come in to sit down. While Karen's sitting down, you hear the creak of her chair, you hear children giggling in the background. But it's not clear enough to put up here, you know? That's one of those things. This is another one of our favorite places, the Murphy's Hotel, other side of 49. You can see we're everywhere. This place was built in 1856, burned down like any other place, got rebuilt. Current owner's great, they love ghost hunters. Lots of reports. When I went into, we were the first investigation group in here in like 14 years. And when I went in, I came out with a box full of stuff like this, and the poor employees must have seen these things and panicked and wrote them down on anything. I had stuff written on toilet paper, you know, little newspaper sheets. I mean, I had stuff like, you know. And it's just so numerous, these sightings. There's prominent ghosts in here. There's Eleanor, one of the most prominent ghosts in here. And she used to manage the hotel, and she still wants to manage the hotel. And people still see her as of today. In fact, we just did our conference there last weekend. 3 days before our conference, the gentleman was having dinner with his wife down in the lower dining room, and a woman walked in Victorian clothing. And she kind of looked around, and then she turned around and disappeared right in front of the
She went
guy.
out and looked at the window.
Yeah, she looked out the window, and then she disappeared right in front of the guy. You know, and there's a lot. You know, you see apparitions, but disembodied voices, doors opening and closing on their own. Other reports include employees walking into bedrooms and seeing a couple ghosts playing poker on the beds in the bedrooms, cold spots, water running at night, tables and chairs being moved in the Mark Twain ballroom upstairs. It'll take the curtains. They have velvet curtains in the Mark Twain ballroom, and the reports are that as they stood there, they've seen the curtains unfurl and furl back up into this kind of thing. Cooks being locked in the pantry, all kinds of stuff. I mean, if you work there, it's an e-ticket for ghosts. You know what I mean? You're just going to get all kinds of activity.
Did you play hide and seek in this closet?
You can barely hear that. This is room 19. This used to be known as the miner's room. This is the Mark Twain room. And reportedly, there's the ghost of a gentleman who died there from cholera, who died in one of the beds in there. Obviously, those aren't the beds, so none of us would sleep in there. But the water reportedly turns on and off at like 3 a.m. in this room. Now, when I stayed there, I didn't get that. Did we find an possible explanation for it? Yeah. The last time we did a conference there, we noticed that the pipes expand at night in the walls, and it kind of sounds like water running. So maybe somebody who's half asleep wakes up and hears the pipes expanding and takes it for the water running. I don't know. But that EVP is a woman's voice, and you can barely hear it. I'll play it again. She's asking you, because they're thinking there's children there, you know, in this room, is what's going on.
Did you play hide and seek in this closet?
No. Yeah. Now, that doesn't sound like a ghost with a moan. Good Lord. Ooh. Yeah. And I don't like the dark, guys, okay? So remember that. A ghost doesn't like the dark.
There's something wrong with that
There's
picture.
something wrong with that picture. I don't like the dark. I'm always behind the video camera with the infrared so I can see everything that's going on. Karen and I don't have the video footage on here, played a game of blackjack in this room with a ghost. As weird as that sounds, we were sitting on the bed, I had, you know, my cards, She had her cards in front of her, and then we had cards out for this ghost. We kept winning the hands. The interesting thing was when this ghost actually won a hand, the lights turned off on and off twice in the room when he won his hand. Ghost hunters do weird things, I tell you. You can barely hear that one. Is your name Elizabeth? She says no. This is one of our earlier EVPs from our first run through there. This is the Mark Twain Ballroom. This is the room where my investigators reportedly were tracing with their EMF meters a ball of energy. And they chased this thing around the room. In this room. This is the most active room at the hotel. This is where we've gotten our best stuff. In fact, Rose and I have some stories about the last trip we were there, even though we don't have our EGPs up yet.
We hear in love, we hear in unity.
Hear that? We conned, in 2008, we conned the manager of the hotel to let us into the Mark Twain Ballroom at 3 a.m. About 6 of us went in, we were sitting in a circle. And Karen, our psychic, was concerned that the spirit was tired and had left us. And this is the EVP we got.
We hear in love, we hear in unity.
Right here.
Right here. Now, while we were sitting at this table, there's a kitchen off to the side. We heard footsteps. We heard things being read around in this kitchen. We heard voices, audible voices while we were there. And this is 3 a.m. in the hotel, and everybody's asleep. So, I mean, the room is just, it's awesome. You know, we went over, we checked it out, nothing was there, that kind of thing. Just awesome stuff. This is down in the saloon.
Of course, the recording wasn't.
This is a K2 meter. This is one of the EMF meters we use for communication.
And she has to keep the line.
The theory is behind it that the ghost will communicate by lighting up the meter. Okay, so if it's a yes
You guys
answer to a
talking about
question,
mining?
they'll make the lights go on.
Do you have stories about mining?
Were you a gold miner? Or did you dig for silver?
Were you a coal miner?
The quicksilver.
Were you a quicksilver miner?
Were you a coal miner?
Like I said again, we repeat questions to verify.
Were you in your 20s?
30s?
40s? Were you 33? Were you 34? Were you 31? Were you 30?
How about 36? 37?
37.
Did you have children?
Were you married?
Is she here with you?
Anyway, so this is what we do at night. Okay, when everybody's asleep, this is what we do.
Do you miss her?
This could go on forever, guys. I'm not going to bore you down. But that's what we do. You know, that's exactly what we do. And you know, it takes hours, doesn't it? You sit there for hours doing this stuff, and you're repeating questions over and over. So, you know, that helps. Now, Murphy's Hotel is great. Like I said, the Mark Twain Ballroom is the most active place in this hotel.
Did you ever work in mines?
Did you work in the mines? Because that's downright insulting. Yeah, you're too Anyway, these are places that you all can visit. You can all go check this out, just like we did. And again, Hangman's Tree may be shut down, but you can still walk around the outside of the building. So they're really easy, accessible places. One of my good friends who's a ghost hunter once told me, and she was doing a lecture just like this, and she says, you know, I wrote a book. She says, but Tom over there wrote a book. Susan over there wrote a book. If you read all our books, all the theories are different. Because nobody knows. And that's why we're doing the scientific study. Nobody knows.
Studying, and we share information with other groups, so, everybody is putting out their information, but there's no defined explanation.
You know what you're
We're
seeing.
still working on it.
Still working on it. It's hard to keep meticulous notes. Also, I don't know if we've been over this, the different types of hauntings. You got the death apparitions, the ones that come to you when you're laying in bed at night, it's your grandmother or your mother. You've heard of those. You got what they call what's the repetitive ones?
Oh, the residual.
Yes, my mind's been blank. Just a residual haunting. Maybe that person took a bath every day, every Saturday at 7 o'clock. So every Saturday at 7 o'clock, like clockwork, you see someone going up your hallway to your bathroom. They don't respond to you. It's like they're focused on what they're doing.
It's a recorded memory.
It's a recorded memory, like a videotape playing back.
Oftentimes there's granite or some kind of a electrical rock that carries electricity under the house, or water that runs under the house that will retain this energy, and it replays itself over and over again. They're unaware that you're even there.
Yeah.
But they'll just replay their life over and over.
That's why you get a lot of action in bathrooms, the water factor, And then you get the ones that are intelligent hauntings, the ones like the ones we deal with on these tapes, are the ones that actually answer.
The ones that push us.
Yes, the Murphy's Hotel. This last time we were there in the Mark Twain Ballroom, again, we're there at 3 a.m. We're good for 3 a.m. And Rose, what happened to you?
I felt like there was something going on the other side of the room, so I just happened to walk over there to see what it was, see what was going on, and something touched me, and I got this electrical impulses through my arm, my hair stood on end, I got goosebumps, and it was a bad, bad feeling. I don't like what's there.
Rose, I don't know what it is. Rose tends to attract the dead grizzly miners.
I do.
They like her. And I tend to play it up. If you want to touch Rose, touch Rose's arm. Touch Rose's arm. Okay? So I tend to play it up. So we're in this hotel room, and I went back, and we never went to bed that night, my part of the team, because I went back, turned my recorder on, and the dang thing is loaded with like 40 or 50 EGPs that we got in this room. And at one point, I'm telling this male ghost, do you like Rose? She's blonde, she's good looking, and I hear the EVP say, damn! Sometimes if you see a ghost pass through a wall, like in an older house like a Victorian, sometimes there wasn't a wall there. There might have been a door there, and the ghost is seeing it as it was when they were living there. Which is why they get mad when you change the wallpaper and move the furniture around the house. Because they're used to having a house just like their house was. So I think a lot of the time they're stuck in their own worlds. And that's why, again, a lot of the time, if we get one that's in distress, we're going to try and help cross over.